Whoa, Friday night, baby. Friday night lights. Ain't much happening down here in Melbourne with the old lockdown, but at least I have this thing here, the Alienware M15 revision free with the 10th generation CPUs, and this one here has the i9 10980HK, i9 baby, and it is fully loaded, this thing. I mean, it has the RTX 2080 Super as well. It even has 32 gigs, so that's good. You can get these in 32 gig models, and you need that now with Flight Simulator. And to top it all off, we have 144Hz G-Sync display. So yeah, I mean, the specs in the thin light don't get any better than that. But is it any good for gaming? Well, let's find out. I've tested out quite a few games. You'll see the benchmarks in a sec. But first I want to talk about the thermals. It's a thin and light, it's got lots of power. As you would expect, these are performance parts, the best you can get. Now it is a max Q, so it is a 90 watt GPU. Now everything I tested was in overclock 1 mode, which is a slight overclock. It's nothing to write home about. Overclock 2 would crash. Now I've got to say one thing, gaming on this is very enjoyable. Like, I really like gaming on this. The super connected feeling of the G-Sync display, and G-Sync, it is better, you know, when it is synced up. It's just that little bit of extra smoothness, great gaming experience, and actual fact, it isn't that loud. My PlayStation's louder than this. And in terms of gaming laptops, one of the better ones in that regard. Now, some people watch my videos and I think they hear what they want to hear. Some people are saying, oh, you recommend 100 degrees. No, I don't recommend 100 degrees. What I said is, don't worry about it if it is 100 degrees. That's a safe temperature, according to Intel, for the CPU. Now, the supporting cast, everything else built around it, it should be a safe temperature as well. In a perfect world, would have no fans and it'll be running 50 degrees. That's what I want. But in reality, gaming laptops get hot, they're loud, they're noisy, some are better than others. And all I was saying is, don't worry if it's 100 degrees. I mean, my MacBook Pro lives at 100 degrees. I like what Dell do, and actually Apple do, is they run to the thermal limit. They don't have to. They could back it off if they want. I have not seen anywhere any example of, say, these Dells or Apple laptops that run at 100 degrees all the time having mass failures due to heat. The only failures I've seen on these Macs that always run at 100 degrees and they don't kick on the fans until very late with the Macs is when they're connecting it to a Thunderbolt device, and it doesn't seem to be able to handle the Thunderbolt heat as well as the CPU. So we would have heard something if these, you know, systems that run at these sort of temps were failing in mass, and we haven't. So it is what it is. This one here, when I play Battlefield, and that's my test, Battlefield, we're getting a CPU clock of around 2.7 to 3 gigahertz. Now, ideally, you want 3 gigahertz and above with the CPU. It's always going to be running at 100 degrees unless you put it in its like cool mode or silent mode or whatever. That's the CPU I'm talking about. And everything is governed from the thermals. It'll go as hard as it can up to 100 degrees. So, for example, in Battlefield, that means 2.7 to 3 gigahertz. I would prefer it goes at 3 gigahertz all the time in Battlefield, but you know, it's close enough. What I like is it's not that loud. I get a great gaming experience, and I'm not getting throttling up and down. Like, it's not, you know, hitting 100 degrees, then hitting the brakes and, you know, dropping 50 frames or whatever. It seems very linear. It just seems smooth. It's good gaming. Yeah, it's hot on the inside, but by the fans, compared to other gaming laptops, you wouldn't even know that. And the clocks are near enough, good enough with the CPU. Of course, different games will be more sensitive to CPU speeds. Now, this does have the i9, so I can undervolt. I undervolted by minus 100 millivolts, and this will depend on your silicon. Every i9 is going to be different. But what that done for me is got the clocks up to 3 gigahertz to 3.5 gigahertz and gave me about an extra 5 watts of power on the CPU. So when I undervolted it, you know, that's killer. That's what I want, over 3 gigahertz. And I don't want micro stutters. I don't want big throttling. And I don't want to be deafened either. So I've got to say, a great gaming experience on this for me. Let's go through the benchmarks, and as you'll see, we'll just go through them here. Interesting, some of these benchmarks. If you look at the Firestrike, you can see the Gigabyte 17X, which has a 200 watt 2080 Super compared to a 90 watt 2080 Super on the Alienware. Have a look at the difference in Firestrike, 22,000 to 28. Yeah, that's the big difference in, you know, wattage there. But as you can see in these benchmarks, it's faster than, say, the 2070 Super that's in the Aero. You would expect it. It is a 2080, so yeah, you pay for the 2080, you'll get faster performance, as you'll see in these benchmarks. It's certainly enough power to get the most out of that 144Hz display, so you're getting the frame rates right up there at high settings, so that's awesome. You know, even Flight Simulator, I was getting around 30-35 frames per second, ultra 1080p, so it's a great machine. I've had it hooked up to my TV, and it's just amazing to play Flight Simulator on a big 65-inch display with this Alienware. And compared to, say, the 17X, which was faster than this, that's one of those big beefy laptops with 2 power supplies, whatever. But that thing was loud as. This thing, it's like not even as bad as the PS4, so much more enjoyable gaming experience. And it's thin and light, so yeah. Check out the benchmarks. You're going to see a Red Dead run at the end, which is 1080p Ultra. I like this thing. Good gaming experience on it. And yeah, stay tuned for my full review. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Tally ho.